My beloved brothers and sisters, when we speak about modesty in Islam, we are not merely talking about fabric, colors, or fashion trends. We are speaking about an attitude, a reflection of faith, a mirror of the heart. Modesty is not a restriction, it's a protection. It's a shield that preserves our dignity and honors the soul that Allah has blessed us with. In a world that often measures worth by appearance, Islam reminds us that our true value lies not in what is seen, but in what is unseen, in the purity of our intentions and the beauty of our character. My brothers and sisters, modesty is not old-fashioned. It is timeless. It is an act of worship. When you dress with modesty, you are making a silent declaration. I am proud to be a servant of Allah, and I honor His commands over the opinions of people. So as we journey through this topic, let us remind ourselves that modesty is not about suppression. It's about elevation. It's not about hiding beauty. It's about revealing sincerity. And when we choose modesty, we are choosing to walk the path of peace, dignity, and divine love. The concept of modesty in Islam is far deeper than the garments we wear. It is a reflection of the heart, an expression of humility, and a symbol of one's relationship with Allah. When we talk about modesty, we often think of clothing first. But in reality, modesty begins from within. It flows from the purity of the soul and the consciousness of Allah that resides in the believer's heart. The way we dress, speak, and carry ourselves are simply outward manifestations of that inner awareness. A person who is modest understands that every blessing, including beauty, belongs to Allah, and thus it is not to be flaunted for worldly attention but cherished as a trust from the Creator. My brothers and sisters, modesty is not about suppressing oneself or feeling ashamed of who we are. It is about valuing ourselves enough not to reduce our worth to physical appearance. In Islam, modesty represents a form of self-respect and spiritual awareness. When a believer dresses modestly, they are making a quiet statement that their faith and their submission to Allah are more important than societal standards or fleeting trends. This mindset elevates a person beyond superficial measures of beauty and places them in a realm of inner peace and honor. It is this inner modesty that shines through one's actions, words, and demeanor, creating a sense of tranquility and confidence that no worldly display can match. True modesty also means recognizing that our bodies are a trust from Allah. He has given us guidelines to protect that trust, not to limit us, but to preserve our dignity. In a world that constantly pushes for exposure, attraction, and validation, modesty stands as a quiet rebellion, powerful form of self-control and self-worth. It is a reminder that our value is not determined by how others see us, but by how Allah sees us. When modesty resides in the heart, it naturally reflects in our choices. How we dress, how we speak, and how we interact with others. Every choice becomes a reflection of our awareness that Allah is watching, guiding, and protecting us. My brothers and sisters, when modesty is rooted in faith, it transforms the way we live. It guards us from arrogance and vanity, teaches us humility, and helps us focus on what truly matters, the purity of the heart. Outward modesty is simply the fruit of inward consciousness. And just as a beautiful tree draws its strength from unseen roots, true modesty draws its beauty from the heart that remembers Allah. Modesty in Islam is not a concept limited to one gender. It is a shared responsibility, a divine value that encompasses both men and women alike. Often, people mistakenly associate modesty only with women's clothing, but in truth, Allah has commanded both men and women to observe modesty in behavior, speech, and appearance. The Quran addresses men first, instructing them to lower their gaze and guard their modesty before addressing women with the same command. This order itself reflects a balance and fairness that Islam establishes, reminding us that modesty is a collective moral principle, not a one-sided rule. My brothers and sisters, when a man lowers his gaze and behaves with humility, he is practicing modesty just as a woman who dresses with dignity and self-respect does. Modesty for men may not always be expressed through a head covering or flowing garments, but it appears in their eyes, in their manners, and in how they treat others, especially women, with respect and restraint. Similarly, modesty for women manifests not only in clothing, but also in conduct, tone, and the way they carry themselves. Both are accountable before Allah for how they present their faith through their actions. It is not about comparison, but about cooperation. For both men and women are meant to complement one another in virtue, not compete in appearances. Modesty builds a moral society where interactions are based on respect rather than desire, where intentions are pure and hearts are free from corruption. It creates an atmosphere where individuals see each other not as objects of attraction, but as fellow believers striving for the pleasure of Allah. When men and women both observe modesty, they protect each other from harm, temptation, and misunderstanding. This shared sense of responsibility nurtures a healthy community rooted in trust, dignity, and faith. My brothers and sisters, modesty is not just about what we wear, but how we think and behave. A modest heart will naturally produce modest actions. It is a sign of strength, not weakness, confidence, not insecurity. When a man guards his eyes, he is not deprived, he is disciplined. When a woman covers herself, she is not oppressed, she is empowered. Together, they honor a divine balance that Islam has so beautifully designed. Each fulfills their role in upholding the moral fabric of society. And through this harmony, both men and women reflect the beauty of submission to Allah. Dressing modestly in Islam is far more than a matter of style or culture. It is an act of dignity, self-respect, and obedience to Allah. When a believer chooses modesty, They are consciously choosing to honor the guidance of their Creator over the fleeting trends of the world. Every piece of modest clothing becomes a statement of faith, a declaration that I submit to Allah and I am proud to represent His teachings. It is not about fashion, it is about faith. It is about understanding that our appearance reflects our values and that our clothing is not meant to draw attention to the body but to elevate the soul. My brothers and sisters, dignity is a gift that Allah has given to every human being. Islam came to preserve that dignity through principles that uplift rather than degrade. When a person dresses modestly, they are telling the world, I know my worth, and my worth does not depend on how much of my body I reveal. This sense of self-respect protects one from being defined by outward looks and shifts focus to inner character. Modesty brings freedom from the pressure to please others, from the constant chase of beauty standards, and from the fear of judgment. It allows a person to live with purpose, confidence, and peace, knowing that they are pleasing the one who created them. Obedience to Allah lies at the heart of modesty. The commands regarding dress are not arbitrary rules, they are acts of mercy from a Lord who knows His creation best. Allah commands modesty not to limit beauty but to guide it within boundaries that protect the heart. When a believer dresses modestly, it becomes a form of worship, a physical manifestation of submission. Just as prayer and fasting are acts of obedience, so is modest dressing. It is done for no one but Allah. It is an everyday reminder of faith, discipline, and devotion. My brothers and sisters, dressing modestly is also a means of protecting society as a whole. It reduces temptation, promotes respect, and encourages interactions based on sincerity rather than superficial attraction. It is a sign that a person values purity over popularity, faith over fashion, and devotion over desire. In every thread of modest clothing, there lies a message of humility and obedience, a silent yet powerful expression of faith that carries the believer closer to their Lord. True beauty in Islam is never measured by the amount of skin one shows or the way one dresses, but by the character, manners, and faith that shine from within a person. The world often tells us that beauty is superficial, fleeting, and dependent on outward appearance, but Islam teaches us something far more profound. The essence of a person's worth lies in the purity of their heart, the strength of their character, and their relationship with Allah. A believer who cultivates good manners, honesty, humility, and compassion embodies a beauty that cannot be tarnished by time or circumstance. Modesty in dress is simply a reflection of this deeper inner beauty. It signals a soul that values virtue above vanity. My brothers and sisters, when we focus on inner beauty, we begin to understand that modesty is not restrictive, it is liberating. It frees a person from the constant pressure to impress others and shifts attention toward cultivating qualities that truly matter. A kind word, a humble attitude, patience in adversity, and respect for others. These are the traits that make a person radiant in the sight of Allah and beloved to people. Clothing is only a small part of the picture. It is the heart and character that give it meaning. When a person dresses modestly, it becomes an extension of their inner values, not a mask to hide insecurity or an attempt to conform to societal trends. Islam encourages believers to see beauty through the lens of faith. The Prophet Muhammad reminded us that the most beloved in the sight of Allah are those with the best character. This teaches us that modesty, humility, and righteousness carry far more weight than external appearance. When we measure beauty by piety and manners, we create a culture where respect, dignity, and sincerity flourish. People are valued not for how they look but for how they treat others, how they uphold moral principles, and how they strive to please Allah. My brothers and sisters, understanding true beauty also changes the way we perceive ourselves and others. We begin to appreciate that the way someone dresses modestly is not a limitation but a declaration of integrity. We learn to admire patience, kindness, and faith more than fashion or fleeting trends. When the heart is adorned with good character and the soul is illuminated with faith, the outer appearance naturally follows in harmony, reflecting a dignity that cannot be imitated or manufactured. Modesty becomes not just a guideline for clothing, but a lens through which all interactions, decisions, and expressions of self are measured, allowing a person to embody beauty in its most complete and lasting form. Modesty in Islam serves as a protective shield for the heart, a means of preserving one's honor, and a path towards strengthening the relationship with Allah. It is not simply a rule to follow or a dress code to observe. It is a comprehensive approach to life that safeguards a believer from the influences that can corrupt the soul and weaken faith. When a person chooses to live modestly, they are consciously setting boundaries that protect their inner peace, maintain their dignity, and nurture their spiritual connection. This protection begins in the heart, where desires, intentions, and thoughts are formed, and extends outward in the way a person interacts with the world. My brothers and sisters, the heart is the center of our being. It is where faith grows, intentions are purified, and actions are guided. Modesty helps protect the heart by directing attention away from unnecessary temptations and toward meaningful pursuits that bring one closer to Allah. When we dress modestly and conduct ourselves with humility, we remind ourselves and others that our value is rooted in character and faith, not physical allure or superficial charm. This creates a sense of inner security, freeing the believer from the pressures of comparison and envy. and the fleeting judgments of society. The heart, guarded by modesty, becomes a sanctuary where sincerity, patience, and devotion can flourish. Preserving honor is another profound aspect of modesty. In Islam, honor is not merely social recognition but a sacred trust given by Allah. By dressing and behaving modestly, a person protects that honor from being diminished by inappropriate attention, misunderstandings, or actions that could compromise their dignity. Modesty enables both men and women to interact with others respectfully, establishing relationships built on sincerity rather than temptation. It ensures that the respect one receives comes from virtue, character, and faith rather than external appearance, creating a life guided by principles rather than passing desires. Strengthening the relationship with Allah is perhaps the most important benefit of modesty. Every act of modesty, whether in clothing, speech, or behavior, is a demonstration of obedience, a reflection of submission to the Creator, and a conscious acknowledgement of His wisdom. When a believer consistently chooses modesty, they cultivate mindfulness of Allah in every aspect of life. This mindfulness nurtures gratitude, humility, and a sense of purpose, reinforcing the spiritual connection that sustains faith through trials, distractions, and worldly pressures. Modesty becomes a daily practice of worship, a reminder that every choice we make, no matter how small, can be an act of devotion that draws us closer to the one who knows our hearts better than we do.